Our Father in heaven. Jesus teaching his disciples and those who came to hear him how to pray. And he starts off with Our Father in heaven. And I want to look at part of that sentence, in heaven, in heaven. What is heaven? Where is heaven? There are so many ideas about heaven. Very often it's kind of portrayed as a rather boring place, sort of fluffy clouds and harps, or in more modern kind of stuff on TV, the Netflix, The Good Place, this the kind of place that no one can ever really get to because no one can ever really be good enough. What heaven? Well, I guess the first thing to say about heaven is that it's where God the Father is. There's something about heaven which is a place in which God the Father is in a lives in and dwells in a way that he is in all his glory. Um, we know that God is everywhere all at once, omnipresent, but in heaven it's where God dwells, and we also know it's a place where Jesus Christ currently is. It talks about in the Bible about when Jesus was resurrected from the dead with a real body, physical, flesh and blood. He ate, his disciples touched him, and he ascended to heaven, and it talks about him being on the right hand of God. So we know there's a physicality about heaven. It's actually a tangible, real place. Jesus is alive and is real, and there is a physicality and a reality about heaven which is not ethereal. Where is it? I don't know where it is, but it is a real place with a physicality to it. And we know that's where Jesus is, and we know that's where God the Father is. Heaven is a place where when we die, if we know Jesus Christ, we go. The thief who died on the cross next to Jesus Christ, the two thieves were crucified on either side of Jesus, and one was castigating Jesus, and the other one said, he doesn't deserve to be here. Why are you? And Jesus said to that thief, today you will be with me in paradise. So heaven is a real place, and it's a place that after death the Christian goes to. But heaven is also a place where God's will is done. His good and perfect will is done. In the Lord's Prayer it says, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. There is a perfect will of God, and eventually that perfect will of God is going to cause the whole of creation, which the Bible says has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. The Bible talks about that creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the glorious freedom of the children of God. You see, we live in a universe and in a world which is subject to decay. The laws of science would call it entropy, which is the winding down of things that actually is subject to decay. We know that our lives are finite. We know that everything around us is finite. The planet Earth has a shelf life, and we can see that the world, even in creation, is in chaos. If we look at this COVID-19 virus, it's a groaning, it's a pain of creation, and to bondage, to decay, and to death. But God's will is that one day there will be a new heaven and a new earth. You see, in the beginning, when God created everything, he made earth and he made mankind, and it talked about God walking in the cool of the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. There was a sense in which creation, mankind created in the image of God, and God could dwell together. And Christianity, yeah, it's about Jesus Christ dying on the cross to save you from your sin. but it's also about the fact that Jesus Christ has come to liberate the whole of creation, and that there will be a new heaven and a new earth. The book of Revelation talks a lot about this, and Jesus talked about it, and so did others in the New Testament, about a time where Jesus will come back, and he will come back, and the final trumpet will be called, and he will return. It says that this Jesus, in the same way you saw him go, the disciples saw him taken to heaven, he will come back. But he will come back, and when he comes back, that will be the end. And it talks about heaven and earth. There will be a new heaven and a new earth. And those that know God through his Son, Jesus Christ, will be part of that new heaven and that new earth, where God's perfect will is fulfilled, and where there will be no more tears, where there will be no more sorrow. And it's going to be an exciting place. I love the works of C.S. Lewis, and C.S. Lewis in the last of his series of books, when the children are on a train, it crashes and they die. A bit morbid, but it actually says that was just the beginning of their story. You know, the new heaven and the new earth will be the beginning of a glorious story that will go on forever. It will be not kind of some bubble of time which is frozen. It will be time going on, and us living in that, knowing God. And another C.S. Lewis book, wonderful book, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. They come to the end of the sea, and if you've seen the film, the mouse, I've forgotten his name, he decides to go over this huge kind of roaring kind of wall of water, and he goes into the new land, the new country where Aslan is. You know, heaven is going to be fantastic, and it will be a new heaven, and there will be a new earth. And we find these things are so amazing to think about. And I sometimes I pinch myself and say, do I really believe this? Is this surely not just fantastical stuff worthy of a Hollywood movie? I guess I think that sometimes I think about some of the things I know, I read about in science. I think about things like string theory, which talks about how the whole of the universe at a microscopic level is made up of, potentially, it's a theory, little tiny substances. They call it string because it looks like string, but they are so small, they are so microscopically small, that one tiny little bit of string in relation to an atom is like an atom relating to the whole of the galaxy. You know, when you think about, there are so many things that I as a human, you as a human, can't comprehend, can't understand. And science talks about all kinds of things that just blow my mind. And you know, I believe that science and faith needn't be contrary. And one day we will understand all these things. And you know, heaven is a real place, and it will be made up of real things, of tangible things. It's not an imaginary place, and it will come to pass, and we will be there. And you know, if you know Jesus Christ, if you've called on his name and you've said to him, I want to follow you, you know, the things that I have done in my life that the Bible calls sin, I know that you died on the cross for me. He did that because he wants you to be part of this new heaven and this new earth. So we meet on a Sunday morning at King's Church, Kendal. And if you want to join us, you can contact us, and we can give you details for getting on contact with us on Zoom to find out more about this wonderful God who is our Father in heaven, and the story of Christianity, which is about the whole of creation. And maybe check us out sometimes. Thank you very much for listening to me. God bless.